Full Commission. Mr. Chairman.
We're very pleased this evening to have Pastor Bruce Raley lead us in our invocation. Pastor Raley is the pastor of Creekside Fellowship Baptist Congregation on Harsh Lane in Castalian Springs. He has served as Director of Church Education Ministry and Lifeway Christian Resources since 2006. He's a native of Arkansas. He has a long history of ministry service in Florida and Arkansas, where he was president of the State Religious Education Association. He's married with 2 children and enjoys hunting, fishing, working on the family farm. Pastor Raley, we're so happy to have you this evening.
Thank you. Will you bow with me as we pray? Our Father, tonight we pause at the beginning of this meeting to just acknowledge you and to praise you and to thank you. We realize that every good and every perfect gift is from above, and just the gift of life, the gift of health, the gifts of neighbors, and the privilege of living in a place such as this, we realize are gifts that we want to pause and not neglect, but to thank you for. Father, your word tells us to pray for those that are in authority over us so that we would live peaceful and tranquil lives. So we pause and we pray for our president, and we pray for our Congress and our Supreme Court and the important decisions that are before them. Lord, I pray that you'll surround them by men of wisdom and women of wisdom that will lead to make decisions that would be right for our country. We lift up our governor, for our state legislature. But Lord, tonight especially, I lift up these men and women who have been elected by our neighbors to represent us. I pray that you, Lord, you will guide them to make decisions that would be right for our county. Lord, you've also told us to pray for those that are in need, and so we do pray for those of our neighbors around us that have needs. And I especially tonight lift up Pastor Landreth of Long Hollow Church, Father, that you will be with him in a very special way, your presence will be with him. And Lord, that if your will would be so, that you would completely heal him so that he can continue his ministry to the thousands of citizens here in Sumner County. So Lord, tonight we pray these things in the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Remain standing, please, for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, call the roll, please.
The roll call is now open. Each commissioner, please record your presence. All 24 members are present.
All right, with 24 members present, a majority vote will be 13, and a 2/3 vote will be constituted by a vote of 16. On the agenda, if you would please take note, we need to remove 130301 from the agenda tonight. That will need to go through budget before it's back on the agenda. The new Educate and Grow 130304 resolution is should be on your desk, and other budgetary resolutions should also be on your desk. Do I have a motion to approve the regular agenda and the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move item 8 on the consent agenda under highways as item 1. It's resolution 1303-20, please.
130312.
1303-20 on the second page, which is item 8 on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, on the Budget Committee agenda, would like to move item 4 to the end of the Budget Committee agenda. That shouldn't come before the bond vote because we don't expend the funds if the bond does not pass. Number 4, item number 4, that's resolution 1303-08. Move it to the bottom of the Budget Committee agenda.
All right, we will do that. Any other changes? All right, do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Akins. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Taylor. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. We have an agenda. We need a motion for approval of the minutes for February the 25th. Motion by Commissioner Lamar. Second by Commissioner Skidmore. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. All right, we will show Commissioner Vaughn abstaining on that vote.
Mr. Chairman, I think I'm abstaining. I can't remember whether I was here or not.
Okay. I don't think you were. Commissioner Graves will be reported as abstaining on that vote. Recognition of the public at this time. If the sheriff will see if there's anyone else to sign up. We have at this time our trustee who is bringing to us some important information that she's been directed to make the county commission aware of. So, Ms. Nelson.
Good evening. I have good news and bad news. The good news is that our collections are up over last year, and for 2012, we're right at a little over 94%, and our 2011 delinquents are just a touch over 98%, which is above what we were at this time last year. Now the bad news. It's not horrible news, but on the 8th of March, when we took the deposit to the bank, we had two $100 counterfeit bills. In our office, we always mark the bills with the pins, the counterfeit pins. These two bills actually passed that test. They felt good. There was no reason for my chief deputy, who handles all the money, to think that they weren't real. The bank machine popped them out because it detects the counterfeits. The bank had on the day before I went in, so that would have been on the 7th, another $100 bill. All three of the $100 bills had the same plate number, so they contacted the Secret Service, who, of course, is over all of that. The two bills were sent in to Secret Service. The Secret Service strongly suggested that I contact law enforcement here, and of course I immediately, before I even left the bank, contacted the sheriff, and he was going to tell the detectives, and we'll go from there, because they were suspecting a ring, but I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. We were concerned as what we do with this money, this loss in $200, because they keep it, we don't get anything back, we don't know where it came from. We don't know if it was taken in property tax money or if it was taken in revenue, because usually most of the departments that send revenue into our office mark it, and then we mark it again. Property tax money, all cash, is marked. Most of the time we don't mark 1s and 5s. But we always mark 20s and above, always. We didn't know how to charge this money back to make our books balance, and we contacted CTAS. We contacted our auditor, who contacted CTAS, and they recommended that because we didn't know where the money came from, that we charge it back to trustee commissions to county general. If we had known what department, if we had a way to know that it came out of, say, probation money or something else, we would be able to charge it back to that particular fund. Because of this, I have talked with several trustees and gotten a lot of information from different banks, and I have decided to purchase a Cummins currency counter that will kick out any counterfeit money. This way, in our office, every time one person comes to pay property taxes, we can run that money, and we'll know whether it's good before we ever run the receipt. If a department brings in revenue, we can immediately run that, and we'll know if they have brought us any counterfeit money. So it's an expensive machine. It's right at a little over $2,600, but I feel like over the next few years that it will pay for itself. Any questions?
Thank you for the report, Ms. Nelson. You will notice that the Veterans Service Report is a part of your packet for your information. And at this time, we will be recognizing several people from the community. Would Mr. Steve Walkers and his family come forward, please? And we will have Mr. Mike Akins, Commissioner Mike Akins, and any other commissioners that want to come and stand with him make this presentation.
First of all, I'd like to say that this, the awards that he has got, the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star, is way overdue. It's from Vietnam, and I don't know how that it became lost through the cracks that long, but we're glad it's happening tonight. And in reading the newspaper article, when I found out about this, I found out that his family's been in the Navy for 100 years, since World War I. And then I read in this where his son has joined the Navy now, so they're going to shoot for 200. And that's pretty much tells me that this is a family of givers and not takers. The county commission has prepared this resolution for you, Mr. Walker, and it reads like this. Whereas Mr. Steve Walker served in the United States Navy from 1965 to 1968, where he worked on aviation ordnance man and combat air crewman in 5 campaigns in the Vietnam War during his tour of duty. And whereas during his service, Mr. Walker, along with his 5 friends, fought off the enemy mortars with valor during a skirmish in Vietnam, thereby saving the fuel tanks and the airplanes, and was awarded a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star for his display of true heroism. And whereas Mr. Walker is the 4th generation of his family to serve our country. His family served in the United States Navy since World War I, and whereas Mr. Walker's son, Chris, who has recently joined the United States Navy, will begin his boot camp training in June of 2013. And whereas after over 40 years, Mr. Walker finally received his Purple Heart and Bronze Star for his gallant efforts. Now therefore be it resolved by the Sumner County Board of County Commissioners meeting in regular session on this, the 18th day of March, 2013, that his body does hereby honor Mr. Walker's military service to our country and express our appreciation for heroism and valor he has displayed. And be it further resolved that his resolution be spread on the minutes of this body, and the clerk is to furnish a copy of this resolution to Mr. Steve Walker. And I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Aiken and second by Commissioner Taylor. All in favor signify by applauding. At this time, we have a certificate of recognition for the Station Camp Middle School basketball team. Do we have a representative from Station Camp here? If we do not, I'd like for Commissioner Lamar to read the resolution, and then we will see that she gets it to the school.
This is a resolution honoring the Station Camp Middle School Bison basketball team. Whereas the Station Camp Middle School Bison basketball team, led by Coach Jeremy Bartlett and his coaching staff, have completed an unbeaten run through the Sumner County Conference, capturing the league's tournament title, then on to win the Class 4A championship game at the 24th Annual Tops in Tennessee State Tournament. And whereas the Station Camp Middle School Bison basketball team is an excellent group of young men who play with pride, spirit, and confidence, and through their diligent efforts have brought honor to themselves, their school, and Sumner County. And whereas Noah Coward and Chase Freeman were named to the All-County Tournament and All-State teams for the TNT, Reed Reynolds and Matt Heatherly were named to the All-County Tournament and All-State teams for the TNT, and Trey Curd was named All-County and Honorable Mention All-State teams for the TNT, and with their dedicated teammates were honored for their outstanding performance, team spirit, and dedication. Be it therefore resolved by the Sumner County Board of County Commissioners meeting in the regular session on this, the 18th day of March, 2013, that this body does hereby congratulate and commend Coach Jeremy Bartlett and the Station Camp Middle School Bison basketball team for their outstanding season, and I so move.
Motion by Commissioner Lamar, second by Commissioner Mosier. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. I feel certain that there must have been a breakdown in communication. As much money as the commission gives to education, that they did not get the message to be here tonight. But in any event, we miss them, and we'll get the resolution to them. At this time, it's also a very distinct honor to give a certificate to the police chief of Westmoreland, who has served so faithfully that city. And I'd like for her and her family and the mayor to come forward at this time, please.
Well, I have to say it's an honor and kind of a sad moment tonight to see Niecy retiring. So she was one of the first police chiefs in Sumner County, probably the first female police chief in Sumner County, and probably one of the first in the whole state. She was starting her career as I was leaving Westmoreland, going on to college, but her husband Steve had to put up with me some when I was a teenager, so I appreciate that. A resolution honoring Chief Denise Etheridge, whereas Chief Denise Etheridge, after an outstanding career that spanned 20 years in the Westmoreland Police Department, is retiring. And whereas Chief Etheridge was born and raised in Westmoreland, joined the department in 1993, became a full-time officer in 1998 after graduating from the police academy, and has served as police chief since 2007. And whereas Chief Etheridge is one of the first female officers and one of the first women to be police chief in Sumner County, and whereas Chief Etheridge has been a highly considered outstanding leader and a tremendous asset to her community, worked hard to prevent crime and keep Westmoreland citizens safe. And whereas Chief Etheridge has initiated the purchase of a new dispatch system, secured new vehicles for the department, and was instrumental in the building of a storm shelter to provide a safe place in Westmoreland in the event of an emergency. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Sumner County Board of County Commissioners, meeting in regular session on this 18th day of March 2013, that this body does hereby acknowledge Chief Etheridge's many contributions to the city of Westmoreland and to our county, and express our appreciation for the integrity and dedication she has shown throughout her career. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be spread on the minutes of this body, and the clerk is to furnish a copy of this resolution to Chief Denise Etheridge. And I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Taylor, second by Commissioner Akins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chief Etheridge, would you like to say anything?
I was hoping you wouldn't do that.
Oh. We would love to hear you.
I'm not a spokesman, but I do want to let you all know I really appreciate this. Wasn't really planning on this. It came as a total surprise at my retirement dinner a week ago last Saturday night when Mayor Carter told me, and we were going home, and I asked my husband, I said, what's this all about? And he said, well, honey, you're the first female chief in Sumner County. And I said, so, you know, big deal. But I've really enjoyed my work, and I really, really hate to leave. It's due to back problems that I've had over the past year. kind of feels like I'm losing my right arm here, but it's going to be hard to accept the fact. I see things on TV and I hear things on the scanner and you want to grab a gun and run, but I guess those days are over. But I appreciate all of y'all, and I think y'all are a great group of people. I think you do a good job here, and I appreciate y'all doing this for me tonight.
Thank you. We need approval at this time of the consent agenda items. Do I have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Akins. Is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Graves. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. You have in your packet the written reports filed by the county officials, and at this time, do I have a motion for approval of notaries? Motion by Commissioner Frank Frills. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Pospisil. Any discussion? It'll be placed on the board. If not.
Notary applications on the board. Each commissioner, please record your vote. 23 votes are entered. All 24 votes are entered. Does anyone wish to change your vote? With 23 affirmative votes, the notaries are approved.
Okay. We are now at that point in our agenda where we will be discussing the reports of the committees. Now, there is a possibility tonight that there may be discussion on a couple of items, and I would remind each and every one of you that this body is very good about discussing issues and never personalities. So please refrain from mentioning names, but stick to discussion of the issue if you have a difference of opinion. Committee on Committees, Commissioner Mosier, who was elected tonight as the chairperson of the Committee on Committees.
Mr. Chairman, as you mentioned, Committee on Committees met tonight. We have before the Commission Board of Tourism expiring terms of Jimmy Johnson and Charles Bruton. Committee would like to appoint Brittany Baldwin to fulfill Mr. Johnson's term, and Charles Bruton is going to be reappointed. Move to approval, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Mosier and second by Commissioner Lamarve. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Education Committee, Commissioner Decker.
Mr. Chairman, Education Committee, there were two items that'll be brought up at the one up to the Legislative Committee, the other one at the in the Budget Committee. One is Educate and Grow. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, and then some accounting adjustments. Also tonight in the budget, there'll be a vote on the architect fees for Hennesville High School and Gallatin High School. That was not voted. That was voted on in the Education Committee in the February meeting, and then brought to the and will be brought up in the Budget Committee hearing. That's it.
Thank you. Highway Commission, Commissioner Graves, I think there was one item moved over there.
Yes. I do have one. It's 1303-20, and I'm going to let Commissioner Utley explain this because it's up in his district.
All right. Commissioner
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was confused by the description of the ending point of the road. Part of Highway 109 from Center Point Road to south of Highway 76 is in the city limits of Portland. And I just want to make sure that this is corrected, because it says a beginning point at Hollis Chapel and ending point at Highway 76. Well, that would take in part of the city limits. And I just...
We'll have to ask the road superintendent about that. This is her report, so why don't we just defer this a month and we'll get with her and confirm with the appropriate fee.
And that's, with that description,
would you
I
like
just
to
thought
make a
there might...
motion to defer?
Yes, sir. Yes,
All right. All right, second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. That will be deferred till our next meeting. Commissioner Graves, anything else on your report?
No, that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. General Operations, Commissioner Skidmore. Public Services Committee, Commissioner Utley. Emergency Services Committee, Commissioner Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did meet on our last meeting, but before that, we had the ad hoc committee meeting that met on February 28th. During that meeting, we were charged by the Budget Committee to discuss the school safety. We were able to come up with one resolution, which is on the agenda tonight, for 13 school resource officers. That was reported back to the Law Enforcement or Emergency Services Committee and then passed on the budget, and that's what's on our agenda for tonight, sir.
Thank you. Legislative Committee, Commissioner Decker.
Mr. Chairman, first item on there is the Magistrate Annual Review. This is a breakdown of the warrants, the bonds, the subpoenas that go through the judicial commissioners. I'd like to point out there were over 38,000 of those done during this past year, and this has been presented to us, and we need to review this and to accept it, and I'll make the motion that we accept it.
Motion by Commissioner Decker, second by Commissioner Ring. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign.
The second item is a request to name the 109 bridge for Walter Durham. I think all of us that have been in Sumner County for any length of time know the impact that the Durham family, and especially Walter Durham, has had on Sumner County. He has been the historian here. He has also been the state historian, and they have made so many contributions. And so we would ask the state that they name the new bridge after Walter Durham, and I so move.
Motion by Commissioner Decker. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Skidmore. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign.
All right, and the third item, Mr. Chairman, concerns Educate and Grow. Educate and Grow is a scholarship that this commission and Sumner County provides to graduating seniors in Sumner County that are going to volunteer state community college. There was some confusion in your packet. If you saw that, it was a breakdown of this has been in effect since 2009, 2009-2010 school year. And there's a breakdown there about how much money has been spent each year for each high school in the county. And then there's also another breakdown of the total amount of money that's been spent at each of the schools. And as that was being presented to us, the question came up about private school students and if they qualify for this. And so to make sure that that everyone understands, we have cleaned up the resolution, and basically what this resolution says, it's the same resolution that we've had, except there is a statement in there that says that that all students in Sumner County who are legal residents of Sumner County have lived here at least 2 years, their families, then they can qualify for this scholarship. So that includes students who would be in public school, private school, and a home school. They would have to meet all the guidelines as established through the Tennessee Scholars Program. And Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Motion by Commissioner Decker, second by Commissioner Lamar. Commissioner Satterfield.
Mr. Chairman, I don't see it right now, but I'd like to ask the Commissioner why there is so much difference in what these kids are getting from different schools. That Aaron Academy, like I said, I don't even see it now, I think it was $2,200 and something. And then we go down as low as, I think Merle Hyde had 2, and I think they only got $600 a piece. Westmoreland, I think, was $900. So why would we be giving that much money to one individual? And I think maybe Hendersonville and Gallatin was either around $1,600. So why are we that much difference in?
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent question, and I'm glad you pointed that out. The Educate and Grow Scholarship is a last resort scholarship. So what that means is that many of the students who will go to Vol State will receive other scholarships. What's left over after they have received all of those scholarships, whether it's a state scholarship like the Hope Scholarship, or whether it's an academic scholarship, could be an athletic scholarship, but whatever's left over, then the county picks up the rest of that tuition. And so there's a significant difference in some of these because, for example, the student at Aaron Academy probably did not receive any kind of scholarship. And so therefore, it's going to be more, it's going to have to be paid for that student. Whereas in some of these other schools, they may have received other scholarships, and so there wouldn't be as much money.
Which we do know at the rate we're going, next year we'll be out of money.
And I think that's another great point, that we've got about $150,000 in this account, and we could probably get through at least one more year. And then probably next year we need to think about where do we go with this Educate and Grow scholarship. And I think, in my opinion, I think we'll be okay at least for another year. But perhaps next year we might need to start looking seriously at where we go with it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Ring?
Yes, sir. I just have one concern about this. It says that include all students whose legal guardian is a Sumner County resident, regardless of where their high school is located. What concerns me is if we've got somebody who lives in Sumner County, but maybe a parent is a resident of, or teaches, or is a school employee in Davidson County, and they live in Sumner County, but their kids go to school in Davidson County. I would like to see this amended to require that they attend school in Sumner County.
Well, Commissioner Ring, we did discuss that when this came up, and I think the consensus was that if you're a legal resident of Sumner County, whether you go to school in Sumner County or not, and that was why we needed to clear this up. For example, if you go to, if you live in Sumner County and you go to Father Ryan, or you go to Davidson Academy or Good Pasture, then why should we penalize those folks because they are legal residents of Sumner County? And so we felt like that opportunity need to be available to them also. So that was one of the reasons that we cleaned this up, so that we would understand which students would qualify for this.
I'd like to make a motion that this be amended, that the students would have to attend a high school located in Sumner County.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Ring, second by Commissioner Satterfield. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Moser, is yours in regard to this amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
It is. Mr. Chairman, it shouldn't make any difference where our citizens go to school, whether it's Sumner County or Davidson County. They're still citizens of this county. Their parents pay taxes just like any other citizen of this county, and they should be eligible for this scholarship.
Commissioner Stone, is this in regard to the amendment?
Yes, but that was my point, so.
All right. Commissioner Good, is this in regard to the amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I can almost say I want to echo what Commissioner Moser said, and to also point out the way that we have always done it, actually, is we've allowed, as we debated when we originated it, for those that might go to Davidson Academy or Pope John Paul or other private schools, as long as there were citizens here to use it. So it's kind of been the way it's always done. And as Mr. Decker said, it's kind of a cleanup of the language. And again, what Mr. Moser says is we can't penalize. I understand your point exactly, Mr. Ring. We can't penalize this taxpayer versus this taxpayer that all qualifies equally. So I would agree with what's said.
Commissioner Ring, is this in regard to the amendment?
And it may not go anywhere, but I made this because I believe we have excellent public and private schools in Sumner County, and I don't know that we need to be, in essence, rewarding people who choose to send their children somewhere else. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no one else in the queue, I'll ask that the amendment be placed on the board.
The amendment is on the board. Each commissioner, please record your vote. 22 votes are entered. All 24 votes are entered. Does anyone wish to change your vote?
I'm asleep.
I have to wake them up every now and then.
It states your vote, Mr. Stone. We'll see this year.
All right. Commissioner Stone wishes to show his vote as no. With 2 affirmative votes, the amendment fails to carry.
All right, we're back to the main motion, and seeing no one else in the queue, I'll ask that it be placed on the board.
The main motion is now on the board. Each commissioner, please record your vote. All 24 votes are entered. Does anyone wish to change your vote? The resolution is unanimously approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. There was not a meeting of the Rules and Procedures Committee this past month. Financial Management Committee, Commissioner Friels. All right. Budget Committee, Commissioner Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our first item is Resolution 1303-05. It's $110,793.21. That is medical reimbursement from the state to the sheriff's budget. So move, Mr. Chairman.
All right, motion by Commissioner Stone, second by Commissioner Vaughn. I'll ask that that be placed on the board. Seeing no one in the queue.
The resolution is on the board. Each commissioner, please record your vote. All 24 votes are entered. Does anyone wish to change your vote? Receiving 24 affirmative votes, resolution is approved on first and final reading.
Next item, Mr. Chairman, is Resolution 1303-06. It's budget adjustments for the Board of Education for early childhood development and special education. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Stone. Second by Commissioner Harris. Any discussion? Seeing no one in the queue, I'll ask that it be placed on the board.
The resolution is on the board. Each commissioner, please record your vote. Twenty-three votes are entered. All 24 votes are entered. Does anyone wish to change your vote? Resolution is unanimously approved.
Next item, Mr. Chairman, is Resolution 1303-07, $246,345 to the Sheriff's Department for employment of school resource officers for the remainder of this fiscal year. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Stone, second by, I believe that was Commissioner Guthrie. Okay. Any discussion? Commissioner Hughes.
Yes, sir. I'd like to rise and offer amendment. I think if we're going to do this, it's only fair that I personally can't pick and choose which ones get it and which ones don't. So if the decision of this commission is to do this, then I'm going to make an amendment, state that a resolution appropriating, and the finance director needs to check my math, $720,085 from the county general unassigned balance to the budget of the sheriff for the employment obtaining of all 38 resource officers for the remainder of 2012 fiscal year. And I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Hughes. Is there a second? Who was second? Wait just a moment. We may not have to. Who was the second? Commissioner Brown seconded that. Would you repeat that motion, Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Basically, the amendment takes it, I believe, from $246,345, and the finance director would have to check the math. I think that's going to take the appropriation up to $720,085, and instead of doing 13 RSOs, that would be 38 RSOs. That would put an RSO in every school.
All right. Commissioner Satterfield, is this in regard to the amendment? Commissioner Vaughn, is this in regard to the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to address that if I could. It's the School Resource Officer Program was debated for a great deal during our meeting of the ad hoc committee. One of the things that came out of that committee, I'm surprised it didn't make it into the resolution, but the goal of that committee was to place a school resource officer in every school in Sumner County. That was what came out of the committee. And given the constraints that we're faced with, and it's not the constraints of this commission or this body, but it's the constraints of training, just the logistics of it, is the way we came up with a number. We right now will put, this will include 13 school resource officers that will be deployed at the discretion of the Sheriff's Department. The reason we came up with that is because in order to get a school resource officer up and running and into the school, the first thing they have to do is they have to, of course, be hired. Once they get hired and go through all the background checks and so on and so forth, then they have to go to the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy. And they have to complete that 10-week school at Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy. After that, they have to get some sort of field training at the Sheriff's Department, and then they go through an additional program that the Sheriff has been so kind to put on for us, which would have cost us an additional money, but he's got the trained people over there to do it. So I say all that to say that we can appropriate this money, and if we do appropriate this money, what we're going to be doing is putting money aside that we won't be able to use, because we have to work with the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy in order to get those folks in there. So this appropriation is just for the remaining part of this year. What it does, it gets the program up and running. It gets people hired. It gets them trained or start their training process and gets them into Toledo. And I don't even know if we'll be able to get all 13 in Toledo between now and the end of the fiscal year. So I understand the motion. I wish it had been in here that was the goal of the committee. But that is what came of our committee, is we would have one school resource officer in every school, given what, the time constraints put upon us by the state government. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Satterfield. He does.
Mr. Chairman, number one, and what I was going to speak on a while ago, which I won't be the two, we've got about every city police department, as far as I know, in Sumner County, because I've talked to the mayor or chiefs, that are making these schools now. I don't know how many times they are stopping and they're going inside the school. And I cannot sit here and make a decision to hire 13 and then let another school out here, which according to the paper, it may be wrong, but according to the paper, the elementary wasn't going to have anybody. And then something happened to those kids. So, number one, I don't know why we're not recognizing these police departments for what they're doing. And when I've talked to them, they said they will do anything to help out, help the county. So I think, first of all, somebody needs to be getting with them and seeing what they can do, or how often they can do this, and try to protect all the kids. So if I'm going to vote for this, then I'm going to have to vote for the amendment for that reason, because I cannot sit here and justify giving a resource officer to one school and not giving it to the other one. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Frank Frills.
My question's been answered.
All right. Commissioner Kimbrough. Oh, pardon me, Commissioner Good.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, can I ask a couple questions?
Of
whomever you deem to answer them.
Well, yes, go ahead.
Can we verify the actual money? Is question number one.
All right. Mr. Loing, how much would that, was Commissioner Hughes on target with that?
Just for the rest of the year, it'd be $720,083.
right.
28 cents.
Commissioner Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And also, one of the previous speakers, the chairman of the ad hoc committee, had said those 13 were picked based on the logistics. Who picks those logistics? Like, does your school get one and mine doesn't, or how does that work, Mr. Chairman?
All right, Commissioner Vaughn.
Maybe I misspoke, Mr. Chairman. It's not, we're not choosing who gets and who doesn't. The sheriff's department will be the ones deciding where the 13 officers are deployed to. The 13 came about, we originally started out with 11, then it went to 13 by a motion out of the committee. And every chief of police in the county was represented there at that meeting that night. So we did get input from every chief of police in the county when this decision was made. That's where the decision came from to put one school resource officer in every school. But I do need to stress, I mean, the logistics of it came from what we can and cannot get into the training. We can hire as many people as you want to hire. If we want to hire 40-something, 30-something school resource officers, you can have that many people on your payroll, and they will be doing nothing other than getting the 10 weeks of or the training that the sheriff can give them. But after that, until they go to the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy, they will not be certified police officers. They will not be able to be deployed in any school. So basically what you'll be doing is you'll be paying a person to wear a uniform and ride around in a police car with someone else until we can get them to lead it.
All right, thank you. Does that satisfy your questions, Commissioner Good?
It does, Mr. Chairman. If I could just end with speaking to the amendment and to the comments made. I understand the logistics, the way it was just described, and that there is a timeline, so to speak, to where we could get there. I also understand that for whatever the reasons, we're obviously one of the last counties to act and to actually get anything accomplished in this matter. But even if it takes an additional time, I would want the citizenry to know, and the potential whoever to know, that we're going to do it in every school. Because candidly, on behalf of the 10th Commission District and all the schools in there, I'm scared to death. Logistically, we're going to say one of our schools does not qualify because we've run out of money and so forth. So I would definitely support this amendment.
Commissioner Kimbrough, is this in regard to the amendment?
Yes. It's just a quick follow, and I don't know, it may be in light of what Commissioner Vaughn said, it may be something the sheriff can answer instead, but I was just curious as to, in light of the current proposal for 13, do we know, I mean, is everything I've heard that that's going to be basically all the way down through the middle schools and not any elementary schools? I just want to know if that's accurate, or if the sheriff's going to decide on his own, or if there's going to be school input on that issue.
Sheriff, do you choose to speak to that?
Yes, I can.
All right.
Mr. Kimbrough, what we have done in the past is we have sat down with the schools and let them make a suggestion on where they felt also that the SROs need to be. Of course, in the past, we've only put them in the high schools, but they have already sat down with myself and Lieutenant Hurst, who is in charge of the SRO program for the sheriff's office, and have made suggestions as to where they would like to see officers be assigned. And also to start out with this 13, what we were looking at, Commissioner Kimbrough, was they would be assigned more than one school. In other words, they would be back and forth as like, for the first year, like floaters to like properties like Beach. You have 3 different schools on that property. You could put 2 officers on there where they could float back and forth with 3 schools. Also Station Camp. Also with the Hendersonville High School. There's several different properties, where you have 3 schools on that one big campus. And so we were trying to look at, which we haven't truly come down to a decision, because I was waiting for this decision to see what we needed to do. But yes, I have been in touch with the schools and the director, and he has given me his information
So we're not just drawing a line at middle schools
No,
and
no.
saying that there won't be any, okay.
Like I said, it's just, that's what's been put out.
I think that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Matthews, is this in regard to the amendment?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And again, the original plan was the most that we thought that we could get through to train and have them ready to go by August. The school year would be 13, and that was maybe even pushing it. We have to go through the Tennessee Law Enforcement Academy. There's one other place, the Walter State Community College could be there. They do accepts their classes and accreditation there. But you have 6 months. From the time you're hired on as a law enforcement officer to the time you're certified is a 6 months time frame. And again, you don't carry a gun, you're not out there doing it if you don't get qualified. So that's the reason for 13. 5-year plan is what the committee came up with. We were stated within 5 years, if we added 13 this year, X amount next year, X amount the next year, we estimated about 5 years it would take to get an officer in every school. That way, that would give our budget people and the county commission serving at those times able to increase revenue and monies to fund those each year. And the original goal when the SROs was first put into the schools was to have one in every school. But although it's a good motion at this particular time for us wanting to do, it's just not feasible in order to get these men and women trained and to get them in the schools. And another issue that we looked at is civil service. We've already given one exam. We have to exhaust that list before we can give another exam. So, you know, we looked at certified officers already. That's already post-approved. Well, we have to exhaust this list. After that list is done, then go from there. So there were several factors that come into it. Your local agencies are working hand in hand with the sheriff and the schools and trying to put officers around the schools, maybe writing reports, checking in. The sheriff's improvised a protocol for patrol division that they are to check the schools in their assigned areas, call them in, let them know that everything's okay, and we do that randomly to assist our school resource officers there and also to get by the schools that don't have them this time. But the intent of Sumner County is to put one in every school. We just cannot do it because of those restraints at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Ring, is this in regard to the amendment?
Yes, sir. Most of what I was going to say has already been said, but I did want to say that I attended part of that meeting, and this was the consensus. This 13 was a consensus of everybody in the room for right now. So I understand what Commissioner Hughes is saying, and when this amendment is resolved, I will have an amendment of my own. Thank you.
Commissioner Gomendon, is this in regard to the amendment?
Yes, sir, it is. I've talked to Portland's Police Chief Richard Smith several occasions, talked to him again this afternoon. And as far as maybe protection of the children, you know, we think maybe that's not a thing that man can do totally. We can't really even protect ourselves. But anyway, the middle schools, Portland Police Department does go drop in on every school and walk the halls sometimes. But he did tell me that they got the very most calls from the middle schools in Portland, and an SRO in the middle schools, at least in Portland, would help the Portland Police Department great.
Thank you. Commissioner Decker, is this in regard to the amendment?
Yes, it is. Let me point out a couple of things. Number one is, and it's been brought up in discussion, is that what we're trying to do in Sumner County is play catch-up. A lot of the school systems around us have hired officers. They didn't have to hire as many as we were having to hire. First of all, probably because we have more schools, but secondly is because they were proactive and they already had officers in the high schools and the middle schools. And because those schools were already covered, they did not have to hire as many officers, and so therefore they were able to get on board. And the second thing I think we need to realize is that if we approve this, and let me say that I'm going to vote for this amendment because I really believe that we should have SROs in every school. But if we approve this $720,000, what we're going to be looking at is in next year's budget, we will have to fund those officers in next year's budget. So we're looking at a pretty big impact as far as finances are concerned, because we don't want to hire these people until the end of this budget year and then all of a sudden not have them next year. So if we vote for this, if we approve this, we need to realize that next year we're going to fund these 38 officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Good, is this in regard to the amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I just got one question, and I'm going to actually call for the question, but, and maybe this is a question for the law director. I completely understand the explanation on the training time and having them sitting there versus us committing on it today. But since what we're talking about doing is not committing to every school, and God forbid, obviously we all pray to God that nothing happens in any of our schools, but after this is passed and so forth and we have an unprotected school, who's liable if something happens in one of those schools that we've deemed not necessary for an SRO office at that time?
There's a lot of different issues that would go into that. I don't think that's a question we can just answer black and white.
But I guess my question is, since this legislative body is about to decide on if we do that, even though it will take us more time to get them trained, but we make the commitment one way or another, if, God forbid, something happens, could the county commission be liable since that's what we're deciding?
I don't think that's an appropriate thing to answer because we don't know all the facts.
Yeah, okay.
All right, seeing no one in the queue, I'll ask that the amendment be placed on the board.
The amendment is on the board. Each commissioner, please record your vote. "21 votes are entered. 22 votes are entered. Anyone not voting wishing to vote? Anyone wishing to change your vote? With 7 affirmative votes, the amendment fails to carry. Back on the main motion.
We're back to the main motion, and I see only one person in the queue, Commissioner Ring.
If it's appropriate, that we amend this to state that the goal is placing an SRO in every public school in Sumner County, or with the goal of placing an SRO in every public school in Sumner County.
All right, motion by Commissioner Ring and second by Commissioner Vaughn. All right, and I'll ask for clarification on that too for the body. There is no